What's up, everybody? Welcome in to the YouTube live show here tonight. It feels like it's been a minute since I've seen you all in this format. Hope you enjoy the interview with Andrew Marchand. I really appreciate him taking the time to do that. But man, are we in bad need of a live show tonight? We are definitely in bad need of a live show with all the smoke that is happening. In fact, you'll have to excuse me. I'm coughing a little bit because of all the Colorado smoke that surrounds all of us right now. I don't care where you are in the United States, there is Colorado smoke surrounding you because there is that much going on seemingly between Colorado and the Big 12 here at this point that we got to talk about it. I mean, that was really the focus of like two of the last 3 or 4 videos that I've done, but we continue to get more and more of it. So I appreciate your concern, Christian. I will not die. I will be okay. But I've got a little Colorado smoke in my lungs, and maybe like a twinge of UConn and Gonzaga smoke too, based on what we read this week, particularly from Ross Dellinger of Sports Illustrated. I mean, what a time to be alive. The 365 crew today had Karen on. Like literally, Karen from Endeavor was on with the 365 guys earlier today. I did not get a chance to listen to that before the show actually started here, but I can't wait. When I saw that tweeted out that she was on the guest list, I was like, man, tip of the cap. That is excellent work. Shout out to those guys. Shout out to Josh Neighbors, who's now working with them too. Man, what a time to be alive. What a time to be a Big 12 fan. And yes, of course, obligatory. All hail, Lord Karen. All hail. Thank you. Thank you for the paycheck as always, Lord Karen. I see Amax says it was an awesome interview. All right. Looking forward to that, man. I am really looking forward to that. So, hey, you see this wry smile. I mean, like everything we're talking about today. Guys, we're going to talk about Colorado and the smoke being crazy. And then we're going to talk about the Pac-12 getting sued again. Like, again, the Pac-12, they're getting sued by the Holiday Bowl now. It's like every day Karen's doing a hell of a job. I guess we'll just put it that way. Karen is doing a hell of a job because not only are we getting all this Colorado smoke, but we also are seeing the Pac-12 continue to take beating after beating with negative headline after negative headline. So I'm looking at the chat more now than I typically do here at this point, but I see Mr. The Champ 84 saying Colorado isn't going anywhere, man. It may not happen, but I had somebody ask me like yesterday, what do you think about Colorado? And I said, they pinned me down for a specific percentage. And I was like, well, I would have told you a week ago, anytime before that, like maybe 30-70 at best. I don't know how you can't look at this now at this point and say like 50-50. I mean, let's, and again, you guys, I'm not somebody here that's saying, hey, it's going to happen for sure. But if you don't feel like, I mean, this is a quote from the athletic director at Colorado. Let me just, before I give you all the lowdown on how to donate, how to get involved in the chat tonight, all that housekeeping stuff that you guys have come to expect. Let's start with this quote, just because I see that in there. How can you be so confident, sir, when the Colorado athletic director literally said this? This is not Dennis Dodd. This is not me. This is not somebody on Twitter with a West Virginia or Baylor or K-State logo or Texas Tech logo in their profile. This is the athletic director at Colorado. This man is paid to manage the athletics at the University of Colorado. I assume, sir, you are familiar with the title athletic director. That is his job, is solely to oversee the best for college athletics at the University of Colorado. He said, quote, we're members of the Pac-12. We're proud members of the Pac-12, and we've got to see where our media rights deal lands and where our conference goes. In a perfect world, we'd love to be in the Pac-12, but we also have to do what's right for Colorado at the end of the day. We'll evaluate things as we move forward. We'd love to be in the Pac-12, but we also have to do what's right for Colorado at the end of the day. We'll evaluate things as we move forward. That is a public comment made by the athletic director at Colorado. He is in charge of intercollegiate athletics of the university in Boulder. And he said that publicly. Like, that is a public statement. And so often these things are like always so veiled, and everybody is so careful, and anything that comes out publicly is just very covering your bases, and nothing that's a pretty open quote saying like, hey, like, yeah, we might leave. I mean, what else are you reading into that quote? And it's also, I mean, we've seen the same quote from the Arizona president. before. But Colorado is definitely the school that seemingly is the closest to jumping headfirst all in on the Big 12 right now. So with that groundwork having been laid, let's go ahead and give you the housekeeping stuff here. First of all, if you want to be a part of the chat tonight, like Snake, you can leave a question or comment in the chat. There are 150 people in here right now. I am not going to be able to see everything that's happening. So if you want your question or comment to be read here on the show, you want your voice to be heard, click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. That is how you can contribute and make your voice heard. Get your opinion here on the show tonight. Plus, it is a way that you can support the channel, support me bringing you Big 12 content on a week in, week out basis. Click the $ below the chat box where it says say something in order to do that. I could not do this without the support that you guys give me. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. So thank you very much for that, all of you. But great way to hop in, control the content on the show, make your voice heard. It'll supersede everything else in the chat, ensures that you get on the chat here tonight. Click that $ below the chat box where it says say something. And hey, if you want to just contribute for free, you want to help to support the channel for free, just simply give me one like, one click. Just click the like button on this video. That is an easy way to support me. You can also leave a comment in the comments section under the video before, during, or after. That all really helps me as well. Anything to feed the algorithm. It's all about feeding the algorithm, people. And that is a cheap, free, not cheap, it is a totally free way to support the channel as well. If you're watching this after the fact, you can support the channel as well on Venmo. It is John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo to support me that way. And genuinely appreciate all of you guys who do that as well. I believe that's all the housekeeping we have. We can jump into it right now. We can get rolling with Snake and McMuffin. Appreciate you guys being here as always. We'll start with Snake. Who comes next? I assume this means next after Colorado. Who comes next? UConn, San Diego State, Gonzaga, or Memphis? I would eliminate Memphis from that list. UConn, San Diego State, Gonzaga were all mentioned in Ross Dellinger's article from Sports Illustrated within the last few days that I will read to you here in a minute. I would say right now out of that list, it feels like UConn is where the most smoke is like currently at this very moment. Let me read you a tweet from Jason Scheer, who runs Wildcat Authority, the Arizona 24/7 site. He says, this is a tweet from earlier. He says, the most smoke surrounding the Big 12 as of now is UConn and Colorado. Doesn't mean Arizona isn't involved or anything is imminent, just that those two schools are getting the most run internally. And I know I saw like Chris Williams, who covers Iowa State and does a great job there, said that he agreed with that. So it seems like most people right now are hearing the most about Colorado and UConn as it stands here at the moment. With Colorado leading, I would say that by a wide margin. So I would say out of that list, Snake, UConn. I think San Diego State still, for obvious reasons, would prefer the Pac-12 if it's going to work out. It might not. So I would say UConn 1, Gonzaga 2, San Diego State 3, distant 4th would be Memphis there on that list. McMuffin. What's up, McMuffin? McMuffin says, Trammell of all people, he's speaking about Barry Trammell from the Oklahoman. He says, Trammell of all people isn't going to make up stories to push a narrative. Colorado feels inevitable. Tony and Pig Bus. Oh boy. Tony and Pig Bus might have some explaining to do in short order. Also got money on K-State over 8.5. Hey, love you for that, McMuffin. I am fairly bullish on K-State, but I do think 8.5 is a pretty good number. That's a number that has me pause and think what I'm going to do there. I think K-State probably regresses a bit, but they also, I believe, have an easier Big 12 schedule than they did last year. So we shall see. I will mention, McMuffin, that it's a deceptively tricky non-con schedule. They've got a road trip to Missouri, which I think might actually be the easier game of the two between that and Troy. They've got a home game against Troy. Klieman has stubbed his toe a couple of times in those opportunities at home against, like the Arkansas States of the world back in 2020. Obviously, Tulane this past year. So I think that'll be a really tricky game for K-State, especially as they break some new faces in early on. But yeah, I like the confidence, McMuffin. I'm with you. Okay. Colorado feels inevitable. Trammell. I want to hit on the Barry Trammell part of this because Barry Trammell, I did a separate video specifically about him joining in the chorus of those that were saying it felt like Colorado was coming soon. I believe his wording, paraphrasing a little bit here, was like Colorado was ready to commit soon, was what he was told by a Big 12 source. And Barry Trammell is that was worthy to me of a separate video because of who he is. This is a guy that is not a carnival barker. he's not out there trying. He has not been involved in a realignment thing. He has not been trying to really make his hay on that, like a lot of us obviously have. He's a longtime journalist, a very well-respected guy in the Big 12. He's been, I think it was like the mid '90s. I was reading his bio. I think he's been at the Oklahoman since the mid '90s. He's covered the league in multiple different iterations, back to the Big 8 days. This is a guy that, one, is connected, and two, is very well respected and does not just throw things around lightly. And he even said that he had heard it a week before and held on to it before actually divulging that and putting it out there, which again shows a little bit more discretion there. I would also say, if you're talking about a guy, and Josh Neighbors and I were talking about this, if you're talking about a guy that, would be trying to carry water for somebody, if you're thinking like, oh, this guy's just carrying water for the Big 12, trying to get their narrative out there, that's not his MO. He is most famously known nationally for feuding with Russell Westbrook when Westbrook played for the Thunder. And like, that's an entity, like, you would not want to be making anybody mad, especially one of, if not the star player for the Thunder there, and getting crosswise with him if you were somebody that was interested in carrying water. So like, you can say what you want about Dennis Dodd on one side, or like, the John Canzanos of the world on the other side, but that ain't Barry Trammell's game, man. That ain't Barry Trammell's game. So that did carry a lot of weight to me. I'm glad that you pointed that out, McBuffin. And by the way, that was the Barry Trammell. Now, for the conspiracy theorists out there in Pac-12 country, for the pig busters of the world, it was referenced by Dennis Dodd in his latest article too. So anyway, thank you, McMuffin. Appreciate you being there. Alpha Cat, I love this. Thank you, first of all, for your contribution and for supporting the channel. Alpha Cat says, off topic, still shocked by your NoHo Hank tweet. You do watch TV. I do. I do love me some Barry. I've got to shout out my guy, Grant Postmortem on Twitter, who got me hooked on Barry like a year or two ago. And so, yeah, I was very sad to see the finale of Barry, because it means that I don't get to watch NoHo Hank every single week anymore. So that's my guy. Love me some NoHo Hank, one of the best characters going on TV right now. So appreciate that, Alpha Cat. I will talk as much Barry as you guys want. I mean, I assume that's not what most of the chat is going to want here, but I will definitely talk Barry. Fantastic series finale, by the way. Loved it. Matthew, what's up, Matthew? Appreciate you being here as always. Matthew Hunsaker. This is a new one. We've had currency donated here to the channel from Mexico before, and now we have Colombian. We have Colombian currency here. So Matthew says, so much smoke, I can smell it from Colombia. Well, hey, first of all, that sounds awesome. Enjoy Colombia, my friend. It says donation in Colombian pesos, not dollars. You can buy Chick-fil-A tomorrow. Yeah, I assumed it was not 20 grand. I saw the 20,000 pop up there. Thankfully, YouTube, I now understand the color coding here. It came up with a yellow color code, which is the same as like the $10 range there. So I did not assume 20 grand, but I appreciate you making sure, because I got very confused when I saw that it was coming in pesos the other day from whoever was it to that. So anyway, quote, do what's right for Colorado is a nice rally cry. Do what's right for Colorado. Yes, you are referencing the aforementioned quote by AD Rick George of the Colorado Buffaloes. We also have to do what's right for Colorado at the end of the day. Maybe that's it. We start hashtag do what's right. Karen, maybe you're listening here. I don't know how much you were into hashtags and like social media trends, but maybe that's what we need to get rolling here. Do what's right. Hashtag do what's right, Colorado. Thank you, Matthew. Enjoy your time in Colombia, my friend. Very, very jealous. Delaric, what's up, Delaric? Delaric says, if UConn comes, is football included? Yes, I believe football would be included there. It seems like they would be a full member if invited. Let me read you a little bit from Ross Dellinger here as we try to weave some of the stories in here where he mentioned UConn a little bit. He starts the Big 12's expansion negotiations with Gonzaga, among others, are expected to take center stage later this week at the conference's spring meetings in West Virginia. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark and other league officials continue deep discussions with the Zags as well as with the school's consulting firm Navigate. All hail Lord Karen. Sources tell Sports Illustrated. Navigate, all hail Lord Karen, is a data-driven company that is assisting Gonzaga in a potential move from the West Coast Conference and into a Power 5 league. Yormark began conversations with the school several months ago, so there's a lot about Gonzaga. We know all of this. As SI reported in a story published May 15th, the Big 12 is also targeting another basketball power out east, 5-time national champion UConn. A pairing of the two would give the league dominant hoops programs on either coast. Big 12 presidents and athletic directors will meet Wednesday through Friday in a gathering expected to focus on Yormark's desire to grow the league to as many as 16 members. So nothing much else really on the specific UConn front there, although just another mention that UConn is still pretty heavily involved there. I'm sure the fact that they won the national championship this year in basketball has kind of accelerated Brett Yormark's interest here as he really puts an eye to creating a basketball product that can make you money and separate itself, maybe the TV rights anyway, from the football contract there. So I do believe, yes, Delaric, it would be as a full-fledged member, not just bringing basketball. Austin, what's up, Austin? Thank you, sir, for a very generous donation. I appreciate that immensely. Appreciate you being here in the chat tonight. Austin says, John, love the show, though I never make it live. Big 12 stealing Utes rivalry in the Pac-12, Colorado, and the Big 10 taking Utes more natural rival. USC is hilarious. Go Brigham. Hey, that's a new angle. I like that angle from a BYU fan's perspective. I didn't actually I'm not sure that I realized that was like the technical rival for Utah in the Pac-12 being Colorado. And taking USC, yes. Well, I mean, because it's USC has been like the perfect pairing for Utah right now, because Utah has just, been the opposite of USC in that they are extremely competent, like devastatingly competent. And USC has been kind of a three-ring circus until last year when Lincoln Riley, they brought him in and he was good and powerful enough to supersede all of that. But I mean, clearly we're seeing what's happening with the athletic director situation at USC too. Like, they've had issues, man. That's not been a well-run ship for a long time. And so Utah got to come in here, be aggressively competent, run the league for a handful of years, beat up on USC more often than not. It has certainly seemed like, at least to me, without knowing the full series history of all that. And they get to get their jollies off to that, which they should, by the way. They absolutely should. And now that is going away. Yes, that is going away. And to top it all off, Austin, maybe Utah winds up back in the same league as BYU and having to play BYU. Wouldn't that be something as well at the end of it all? So it might get even better for you, Austin, or I don't know. Maybe they wind up back in the good old Mountain West. Who knows? Who knows? I'm sure Utah feels great. Listen, knowing that fan base, I'm sure they feel great about winding up that the SEC will be calling in any minute once the rest of the four corner schools jump to the Big 12 and everything implodes. I'm sure they are confident that they're in Greg Sankey's. You know how on your iPhone you can like pin text conversations up to the top and you have like, whatever it might be, your 3, 4, 5 favorite text conversations. I'm sure Utah fancies themselves in Greg Sankey's phone as one of those top conversations. Maybe they're still working on Tony Petitti at the old Big 10, but I would imagine they feel pretty good about being in Sankey's top 5 there. So we shall see. But Austin, appreciate you being here, man. Appreciate the donation. Thank you for being so generous here on the show tonight. I appreciate it, my friend. Christian, what's up, Christian? Christian says, final pitch for Pac-12 schools is that our bowl affiliates won't sue you, and now you'll get Pop-Tarts. That is a great freaking message, Christian. Timely, topical, and cutting to the core of everything. Yes. In bowl news today, the Pac-12 is being sued by the Holiday Bowl. Let me bring you that story. Pac-12 getting sued yet again. They are in the midst of being sued by a couple of top executives that were fired in light of the Comcast thing. And they're saying, hey, that was Larry Scott's fault. Speaking of three-ring circuses, the Holiday Bowl has filed a lawsuit against the Pac-12 Conference and UCLA seeking more than $3 million in damages because of the league's refusal to reimburse the bowl after UCLA elected not to play the 2021 game hours before kickoff. This is according to the Action Network. Brett McMurphy was reporting this. I mean, this is too good. It's UCLA who's screwing the league by heading out, and just a nice little parting gift on the way out the door. Hey, you can deal with this lawsuit and this extra $3 million for the fact that we decided not to play this Holiday Bowl in 2021. The Holiday Bowl filed a suit in Superior Court in the county of San Diego Tuesday, claiming the nonprofit San Diego Bowl Game Association lost more than $3 million from the cancellation of the 2021 game. This wiped out the 43-year-old Bowl Association's reserves. The complaint states the Holiday Bowl has engaged and continues to engage in good faith with the Pac-12 to negotiate a resolution of the dispute without success. So here's the interesting part. About 2 weeks ago, the Pac-12 notified the Holiday Bowl that it would file a lawsuit if the bowl didn't pay the conference the money the Pac-12 said it was owed by Wednesday, May 31st. The notification did not reference the 2021 cancellation. Ultimately, that led to the Pac-12 threatening a lawsuit against the Holiday. Okay. So the Pac-12 notified the Holiday Bowl it would file a lawsuit if the bowl didn't pay the conference the money the Pac-12 said it was owed from the 2022 game. Okay, I left out a little part there. Let me catch you back up on this. I'm getting out of order here. It's my fault. UCLA drops out, right? In 2021, Holiday Bowl says that cost them $3 million. They said, hey, we're not going to pay your participant Pac-12 in the 2022 Holiday Bowl. So they withheld the payment last year. Then the Pac-12 said, hey, well, now we're going to sue you because you're not paying that money. And the Holiday Bowl came back around and said, well, no, you're not, because we're suing you. So that's this kind of pissing contest going on right now between the Holiday Bowl and the Pac-12. Meanwhile, the Big 12 is now affiliated with Pop-Tarts because the Cheez-It Bowl in Orlando has now changed to being sponsored by Pop-Tarts, which is fantastic. My vote would be one end zone, brown sugar cinnamon, the other wild berry. Those are my two favorite flavors as a kid, though I haven't had a Pop-Tart in years, I would say at this point. I might now, and this is the power in advertising. Pop-Tarts, not on my brain at all until today, and then I saw that with the bowl. It was trending on Twitter, and I'm like oddly craving a Pop-Tart. So maybe I'll go grab some Pop-Tarts here at this point. But you're right, Christian. That is the difference in the two conferences right now. The Big 12 rolling in publicity. Paul Feinbaum, this is a story I don't even think that I put out. Paul Feinbaum was talking up the Big 12 this week on his show. Paul freaking Feinbaum, the same guy that said no one was going to watch the Big 12 championship game just 5 months ago, is now stumping for the Big 12 on TV. And it was for the Big 12 in relation to the ACC as well as the Pac-12. So that's what's happening in Big 12 country. We're all eating Pop-Tarts. The Pac-12 is getting sued by legitimately everybody, it seems like, here at this point. And well, $3 million for the conference is not some crazy sum of money. It's a little bit more when money is becoming an increasingly big issue. And they already have this $50 million dispute going on with Comcast that they're going to have to figure out a way to pay back. They're trying to nail down a TV deal. There's just so much. There are a lot of plates spinning right now for the Pac-12. They do not need distractions like this. They do not need more negative publicity. And I mean, frankly, probably just don't need more things for leadership elsewhere in the conference to kind of question and be like, dude, what the hell is going on here? Like, just keep peeking over at the Big 12. You're looking at your neighbor's lawn, which is the Big 12, and you're like, man, that thing looks great. They've got incredible landscaping over there. Is that professionally done? Like, what's happening? And meanwhile, the Pac-12, you got weeds growing everywhere. You got a busted weed eater. Like, it's going to take a lot of work to get that up to snuff and be what it's like for the neighbor across the way. And if you're somebody on that side, if you're Colorado peeking out the window, like, damn, that looks kind of enticing right now. I mean, that feels to me like the scenario that we have here at this point. Jumped ahead on me here. Kevin, what's up, Kevin? Appreciate you being here, Kevin. Kevin says, assuming Colorado makes the jump, would you be okay with the Big 12 offering CU, SDSU, and UConn to weaken the Pac-12 to force the hand of Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah? Maybe. I think that's a tough one. San Diego State is a very intriguing one as it relates to the other four corner schools and how I would feel about it, because I don't have like a strong, I guess I'll just say this, Kevin, I don't have a super strong feeling one way or the other on that. I would understand the logic there in trying to take another thing away from the Pac-12 at that point in time. But I could also understand if you'd say, hey, I'd kind of prefer Arizona, Arizona State. Like, maybe we just wait this out a little bit longer and see if this causes some panic, because that will certainly have some reverberations around the conference. If Colorado is to leave, that is going to start putting a little bit more pressure on the Arizonas of the world for sure to make their decision. It's going to increase the urgency for the Pac-12 to go try to add somebody like San Diego State. And maybe that would happen right away. So your thought there is valid in that, hey, this could be more of a kill shot to the Pac-12 if you go grab San Diego State. I'm kind of indifferent on that, which is not really what I'm supposed to do here as the host. I'm supposed to be very opinionated and give you something strong, but I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other on that. I think it's a very good question, though. Still, though, it sounds to me like, once again, like the UConn Gonzaga thing is being more talked about than San Diego State. Also, if you're San Diego, I just don't know how realistic it would be. I was kind of operating under the assumption San Diego State would say yes, but I don't know if that would totally be realistic, because if they know Colorado's attached with this, if they know Colorado's going to, San Diego State's probably looking at it like, well, hey, that would probably like force the Pac-12 saying to go invite us right away. And remember, San Diego State still has that summer deadline of when it is that their exit fee kicks way up, like skyrockets. So the Pac-12 is kind of running out of time to do that too. So I would think that could just be like San Diego State looking at it like, hey man, if we don't go to the Big 12 here, we could just get the Pac-12 invite out of the way right now. Another one from Kevin. Appreciate you, Kevin. Kevin says, then if all three of the remaining four corner schools want to join, would you accept all of them to go to 18 or only accept one to save room for ACC schools? I think at that point, I'd probably be more inclined and more in the market to wait it out a little bit. 18 feels too high for me. 18 seems to me like it would be difficult to make that work with the pro rata clause in making everybody whole. Like, I wonder if you would be able to, you'd be splitting the pie so many ways at that point. I just wonder about the ability to get TV networks to commit to adding that much money for 18 schools where everybody's going to get that $31.7 million share. So I kind of doubt that you would see it go that high. I would also point out that in the Ross Dellinger story that I was referencing earlier, Dellinger said 16. He said, see if I can find that exact quote in here. I'm not, but in Dellinger's article at one point, he was talking about the Big 12 discussing expanding as much as up to 16. Yeah, here it is. Big 12 presidents and athletic directors will meet Wednesday through Friday in a gathering that is expected to focus on Yormark's desire to grow the league to as many as 16 members. So as many as 16 members is what was used by Ross Dellinger there. Very, very well respected, obviously, college sports reporter. Although don't tell that to Eli Drinkwitz after this week. But that's my thought on it, Kevin. R Web, what's up, R Web? Great to see you here. Was hoping I would see you here tonight. R Web says, B Izzo, sipping the shine, sitting back saying Buffs and Huskies will do just fine. Indeed he is. Indeed he is. What do we think? What do we think Brett Yormark's drink of choice is? Be very curious about that. Like, I would imagine it's got to be something very expensive. I do not think that's Brett Yormark does not strike me as just like a Bud Light guy or like a Coors Light. Just go grab like a random like whatever light American lager, just a random beer, even like an IPA or something like that. Yormark strikes me as some guy who's drinking like aged 1,000 years Scotch. I think everything in his liquor cabinet probably is pretty damn expensive. So anyway, R Web, I appreciate you being here. I always appreciate I'm gonna have to Google this too. Like what song is that, R Web? I don't know this lyric. I'm gonna have to try to Google this and see if I've got enough of it that'll pop up. Nope, it won't. It just gives me some pictures of Huskies on the internet when I Google that. So someone will have to help me out with what those lyrics are actually from. If you want to join the chat tonight, if you want to make your voice heard, you can click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. That is how you donate. It will pop your chat up above everybody else. We got 340 people in here tonight. No way I can read very much of this. It's just you want to be a part of the show, click the $ to donate. It will pin your chat up at the top and ensures that it gets read tonight. Also helps support the work I'm doing, bringing you Big 12 content on a weekly basis here on the channel. 69 Chevelle SS 396. What a name. Thank you for being here, 69 Chevelle. 69 Chevelle says, going to be fun to watch Neon fail in the Big 12. Good old Neon Dion reference there. That is an interesting element of this whole story. I know Dennis Dodd had referenced that Deion Sanders had legitimate interest in getting to the Big 12 and that Colorado would not have done so without his enthusiasm about it. I appear to have not pulled that into my notes, so my apologies on that front. But I know it's been referenced that Deion Sanders apparently feels good about getting into the state of Texas, that would be a big draw to getting back into the Big 12 would be being able to recruit players in Texas. Remember, Deion is a guy that he's got a couple of Texas ties, back from his days with the Dallas Cowboys. So that makes some sense there. Obviously, it's a very fertile recruiting ground. I also think like Deion's a smart guy, and Deion's a guy that is all about marketing and understands like what the marketing of the Pac-12 has been like over the last 18 months and what it's been like for the Big 12 over the last 18 months and where these things are going. One is being lauded by Paul Feinbaum. The other is the butt of every single joke, being sued by everybody, losing money at every turn, and just generally kind of a disorganized mess. So it is a much different situation here. By the way, if you're curious about the Paul Feinbaum comments that I referenced earlier, here is what Paul Feinbaum said. In a recent episode of McElroy and Kubelik, Feinbaum was asked which conference was in a better spot as it currently stands in college football and expansion, the Big 12 or the ACC. So he's asked, okay, which conference is in a better spot in conference realignment and expansion, Big 12 or the ACC? Feinbaum says, quote, I believe it's the Big 12 because the Big 12 is ascending. The Big 12 looks like it made a very good move with the 4 schools they got. I mean, we may have looked at it on the day it happened and go, well, that's not exactly Southern Cal and UCLA, but they're all quality in their own way. So the Big 12 still seems to be desirous. I mean, you mentioned Rick George from Colorado. That might not be the end of it. Who's trying to get into the ACC today? Nobody. Who's trying to get out? Everybody. Great point there by Feinbaum. And that is something, I mean, infuriatingly, we saw, like, it was Stuart Mandel for a while was saying like that was a point of why the Big 12 was not going to fare as well as the Pac-12. We're not even talking about the ACC, but the Pac-12 was like, hey, well, like, nobody is trying to leave because they don't have any other offers. And Feinbaum spinning it around and being like, well, yeah, I mean, look, everybody's trying to leave the ACC. There are clearly schools flirting with the idea of leaving the Pac-12. Nobody is doing that right now in the Big 12. That's a point of strength here in realignment. Whatever the reason may be, if it is this island of misfit schools that isn't quite good enough to get an invite to one of the big boy schools, it's creating a stable conference that's being able to build right now when the other leagues are going through a lot of struggles. So if you're projecting long-term success, that stability is being noticed. And if we're going to take like a big picture takeaway from this, I mean, my God, people, Paul Feinbaum is publicly saying that you're in a better spot than the ACC. That is an unbelievable W for Brett Yormark in trying to make this league more marketable and completely change the narrative around this conference. That is an incredible narrative shift in a very short period of time with this league that used to be the butt of every single joke. That ain't happening anymore. And people are taking notice of what is going on right now. They're taking notice of Colorado's interest. They're taking notice of the Pac-12 struggles to get this TV deal done and the ACC's tumultuous time right now where everybody is publicly admitting that they want to leave. So that's crazy. I mean, all hail Lord Karen for Endeavor and their work, but all hail Brett Yormark, man. King Yormark. Salute, my friend. Salute. Okay, moving on past 69 Chevelle. Oh, just jumped up here. Where did Eric go? Eric, what's up, Eric? Eric Worthen, appreciate you being here, my friend. Thank you for your donation and being a part of the show tonight. Eric says, I would like to congratulate TCU for winning the Big 12 baseball tournament. Oklahoma State just did not have enough firepower left to win the championship. At least we get to host a regional again. Yes, Eric. TCU, I can attest as a K-State fan, man, they got red hot at the end of the year. Took 2 of 3 from K-State and Manhattan, although K-State damn near got that last game. Leaping catch up against the wall, kept it from being tied there. And then TCU got K-State twice in the Big 12 tournament, and K-State got left out because of a stupid RPI deal with Oklahoma having a worse conference record, being swept by K-State when they actually played. They got in the tournament over the Wildcats. A little frustrating, but yeah, I mean, hey, congrats to TCU. They earned it, man. They deserve it. They were playing great baseball at the end of the year. And best of luck to both in the NCAA tournament. So thank you, Eric. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you chiming in. We don't talk a ton of baseball here, but that was certainly worthy. TCU turned it on there at the end of the year. Rob, what's up, Rob? Rob S. Appreciate you as always, my friend. Rob says BY talking to Brett Yormark, talking to UConn is a threat to Arizona to fish or cut bait. If they don't jump with Colorado, the Big 12 will add worse football but better basketball. That's an interesting theory. Is it a leverage play? Are there leverage plays going on here right now for Yormark and company, trying to put a little extra heat on Arizona. I mean, they were more publicly open about flirting with the Big 12 than Colorado was early on here. I think that much is like very, very clear. We saw their president basically give the same quote, maybe a little bit more subdued, but basically the same quote that Rick George, the athletic director of Colorado, gave that we read earlier tonight on the show a couple of months ago. That's been a while. That's been at least weeks since we actually saw that out of Arizona. So you know that they've been toying with the idea a little bit too. So it's an interesting thought, Rob. That's an interesting thought. I think we all kind of feel like at this point, like Yormark maybe playing chess a little bit while some others are playing checkers. Perhaps there's something to that, but I don't know. I would also just say I've seen enough. I've seen enough here to think that the UConn stuff is legitimately serious. I don't think that's just like some frivolous. I don't think it would only be a leverage play. I think they are legitimately serious about it too. And you kind of alluded to that as well, that maybe leverage play, but a serious leverage play, something that they would actually do as well. Cougar Tracks, what's up, Cougar Tracks? Thank you for being here as always. Cougar Tracks says, bring any Pac team except Utah. Their fans are the worst. Go Cougs. You know, there's not a lot of love lost between myself and Utah fans here in this chat, certainly on Twitter. So, you know, I'm gonna have to agree with you from what I've experienced so far. Maybe some Utah fans can change my mind, but what I have encountered so far on Twitter has not been good. Again, I understand the plight of the Utah fan. I understand why they have reacted the way that they have to this whole realignment thing. Not just the dynamics of BYU getting into the Big 12 and now being in a conference that's in a better position than they are in suddenly, but also just the fact that Utah had this perfect situation set up where they're running the Pac-12, they're getting all this national attention for it, and now the league may just disintegrate after they waited as long as they did to get their shot at the Power 5 level. I understand why they react so vehemently against anything that would suggest that the Pac-12 could fall apart, because that would be them losing their golden goose. So I get it. I understand why we don't like each other. I understand why they are where they are. But that doesn't mean I'm a huge fan of that fan base on Twitter. So Cougar Tracks, I will give you a bit of a nod there with that one. Tim McGreevy, what's up, Tim? Appreciate you being here, Tim. Thank you for the donation. Thank you for joining in on the chat tonight. Tim says, do you think we'll ever see the day when conferences will kick out the teams that aren't pulling their own weight? Very good question. I mean, I'll tell you, speaking of Colorado, one of their proud alums, Joel Klatt, actually said yes very recently, within the last week. Here's a quote from Joel Klatt, and my apologies, for some reason I don't have where this came from. I know it was on a Heartland College Sports story that I got this quote from, but he said it like on a podcast or an interview somewhere. Joel Klatt said, quote, "You know what's next for us in college football? I told you this is never going to stop, right? I wasn't lying. This is never going to stop, because it's been about who we can add to increase value so that we can all make money. Well, pretty soon it's going to start being about who can we drop. I know people think I'm crazy and look at me kind of sideways, but that's absolutely coming. Because again, there's not an unlimited source of money, and the money then has to get smarter." He went on to say, "I know a lot of college football fans don't like this conversation because I've said the word money too much, but the bottom line is that's irrelevant in this model. And I'm going to get to a place where I think that there are some fixes that will make the sport better. But for right now, you have to understand that's what's going to be entering into the college football is the poor economies of scale. Think about it. Now you've got all these members. Only a few of them are actually driving the overarching value, almost like taxpayers, right?" So he goes on to expand upon that point. But that's what, and look, it makes sense. I mean, Joel, if this thing has been driven by greed, which it has in a lot of ways, you will get to a point where you're like, all right, well, we can't. I mean, even take this part of the conversation. I'll throw this out there. One of the articles, and I'm losing track of it all, somebody had reported here recently about the ACC that even those schools, the Miami, Clemson, Florida States of the world in the ACC, wouldn't be additive to the Big Ten or the SEC. Like if they were to join, they would not be powerful enough to actually make that conference's per school payout increase, which would be a bad problem for them and kind of keep them really stuck between a rock and a hard place. But if that's the deal, we're at that point where they've already kind of like outside of Notre Dame, they've maxed out the brands that legitimately add them money. Then at that point, you do kind of have to start looking at, all right, the next way to go if we're going to actually make money here would be to just cut schools loose And I would say, like, hey, that seems really harsh. That probably wouldn't happen. There's so many long-standing relationships there and all of that. But like, that would sound like the exact same kind of broken record, right? Um, that we said about, thinking about like Texas, Oklahoma, USC, UCLA, like schools like that leaving. Now, the other part of that is like, okay, the legalities of it all and how does that all work? And I don't know, would you get sued by somebody? I don't know. I can't profess to really have a great grasp on that, but I can see the road that Klatt is going down there. And if we're going to continue to be driven by money over everything, I do think that could be a logical place to arrive at some point. Our web says I just made it up. Okay, thank you, our web. That must be why I just got a picture of Huskies when I googled it. But thank you for the follow up, our web. That's not bad. You ever thought about a career in the music industry? I mean, you don't even have to be the guy rapping it, our web. You could just be a writer in the room, man. Just get some writing credits on an album. You could do that. Hit me up. We'll talk about it sometime. I would love to get some writing credits on an album too. Maybe we can both work on that. Jim, thank you, Jim. Jim says thanks for the coverage. I appreciate you taking the time to do that, Jim, and thank you for being here. Much appreciated. Oh, my guy, Bill G. Bill G in the house, and Bill G says, "Have a Drinkwitz on me." Well, sir, to that, cheers. Have a Drinkwitz on me. Good old Eli Drinkwitz. Yeah. He did get done a little bit dirty by Ross Dellinger's initial tweet yesterday that had referenced him when talking about NIL being like, man, we're paying these kids crazy life-changing money. They make more than my brother-in-law, who's a pediatrician. He saves lives. The full expanded quote was not nearly as bad as the initial tweet made it out to be, but Drinkwitz also suffered a little bit there from being a guy that has run his mouth so much with so little to show for it that people are very quick to jump on that. Now, would they have jumped on that from anybody because of the NIL thing and the fact that like it's Twitter and that's just what people do? Yes, but I think Drinkwitz got it a little bit worse because he's been this dude that just runs his mouth all the time. And so everybody's like waiting for an opportunity to jump back on that. And I mean, look, me included, I do not like the guy at all. I don't like his shtick. I think he's a punk. He was subtweeting high school kids when winning a recruitment here. So that was about a year ago anyway. So I don't like the guy at all. I also watched K-State absolutely kick his ass last year in Manhattan, which was wonderful. And I plan on being in Columbia when it happens again this year. So yeah, a little bit of ruffling some feathers on Mizzou Twitter this week. Which I get, I mean, if you're a Mizzou fan, like the hell have you had to actually like get excited about for the last decade? I mean, not much. So jumping in on a conversation about your head coach getting after me on Twitter, I get it, Mizzou fans. You're bored. You don't have much going on. Nothing's been really positive. You're angsty. You're angry. Although I don't even know. My vibe always seems to be like Mizzou fans have just been kind of apathetic by this point. Not even like that angry, but got them a little bit riled up earlier this week. My apologies, Mizzou fans, that you don't have a whole hell of a lot going on. Also, sorry that you're losing your star hooper who's staying in the draft. My condolences to MIZ land out there. Robert says, late to chat, so maybe you covered this. Wonder what Wilner and Canzano's reactions were to Trammell's article. I don't know that I've really seen anything. Somebody mentioned that to me earlier today, texted me and said, like, it feels like Wilner and Canzano have been a little bit quiet lately on the realignment front and haven't talked a lot about it. And I was like, yeah, that's actually how I feel about it too. I mean, I'm on the Pac-12 hotline website right now, which is John Wilner's site. I mean, I'm not really seeing much here. He's got a mailbag from 5 days ago. This decoding comments story, I feel like that's pretty old too. It is. That's over a week old. So yeah, there has not been a whole lot, which for a while there was just a ton of like pushback. I haven't been to Canzano's site in a long time. Oregon's athletic director, Rob Mullins, sounds off. That's behind a paywall. Sorting out a conspiracy or 3. I mean, I guess, okay. This is from May 30th. So maybe this, let me see if Trammell pops up in the search here. Nope. Not seeing it. Not seeing it anywhere. I mean, it's kind of been the move. Unless I'm missing something, and if I am, somebody please alert me in the chat, like a reaction that they've had to it. When something comes out that's like a little more substantive and not something that's like an easy dunk for them on Twitter, not just like somebody that's making poor points from the Big 12 side of things that they can just use as fodder to dunk on it and make a quip about how stupid realignment Twitter is. If it's something that's a little more legitimate, you just generally don't see them comment. Like the strategy is to just sort of let it pass. And I mean, that's far from unique to them. That's kind of how this goes with anybody in any sort of argument like that, left, right, political, whatever. Like if it's something that's kind of a legitimate point, you just don't amplify it and just let it go as much as you can. That is a strategy that seems to be what's being, for the most part, employed here, at least from what I have seen. Again, I'm not catching everything. I've got a lot going on in my world these days. I may be missing something, but I have not seen much of a reaction, which to me, I would say that silence speaks fairly loudly. But just my thought, maybe we will see something. Maybe I am totally missing something and I'll sound like a complete idiot for saying that. But that's where I'm at, Robert. That is where I am at. Daniel, what's up, Daniel? Appreciate you, Daniel. Thank you for being here as always. Daniel says, with all the Pac-12 lawsuits and the unknowns on Oregon, Washington, Colorado, does anyone know how many non-Big 12 ADs are in West Virginia this week? Note, Greenbrier country is almost heaven. Yes, I believe you tweeted that at me, Daniel. Hey, look, I wish I could be there. I believe you said to me, like, hey, I wish you could be there. Man, I would kill to be there. Boy, you know what I would give to be fly on the wall in those rooms right now, and obviously experiencing the beautiful scenery that is around there. I would love it, but unfortunately, I am not. Do we know how many non-Big 12 ADs are there? Well, if you want the official statement, I actually saw it was the Monty Show on Twitter earlier. They got an official statement from Bob Berta of the Big 12, who is the VP of Communications. He says, breaking, Bob Berta, VP of Communications at the Big 12, tells me there are only the current members of the Big 12 and the 4 incoming members in West Virginia. Categorically denied any non-Big 12 members are meeting with the Big 12 in West Virginia. So that's the public stance from the Big 12's VP of Communications, Bob Berta. I was a little skeptical about others being there, and even like the reporting from like Ross Dellinger, it just made it sound like, hey, like this is a meeting for Big 12 officials to get together and like really talk about expansion. They're definitely talking about expansion, but not talking with other schools there. So I'm not sure I ever really bought in with the thought that there would be others that are actually there. I also think that'd be kind of a tough thing to, I don't know, I guess maybe if you're out in Greenbrier County, West Virginia, like maybe you could figure out how to get in and out of there without anybody knowing, but you're taking a pretty big risk. I mean, like George Kliavkoff made that trip to SMU and people snuffed that out really easily and it got way out there. That just seems very risky to me to be doing it that way. Like all these conversations seem to happen like kind of back alley style. So that feels like it would be too public for me. So I would say I'm inclined to believe that. I am inclined to believe that. We got a couple more here. Yep. By the way, if you want to join in, you got about 10 minutes left of the show here. You got something I haven't covered. You want to voice your opinion on something, click the $ below the chat box where it says say something. That is how you can donate, be on the show tonight, make your voice heard, and help support the work I'm doing to bring you Big 12 and conference realignment content on a weekly basis. Matthew says, what is your favorite football road trip of the remaining 8 group? Looking forward to visiting them all over time and maybe Boulder and Tucson too. Yeah, amen to that. Well, Boulder's a great trip. I love Boulder. I used to go there a lot, like every summer as a kid. My family had a little cabin outside of Idaho Springs, Colorado. So like we would go there every year growing up, and we'd usually do a day trip to Boulder at some point there in like the week that we would stay there for the family vacation. So I've actually spent a decent amount of time in Boulder, and it is great. Never been to Tucson. K-State played there in the NCAA tournament when I was in school, but I was broadcasting K-State baseball and was not able to make the trip to go watch K-State play. So I've always wanted to get to Tucson. My favorite trip out of the remaining 8. Well, I feel like you guys have heard me say this before, so it's not the most unique answer that I'm going to give you, but like the West Virginia trip is just so unique. Like West Virginia, the scenery in West Virginia is so different than anything else in the league I was always kind of really intrigued by that one. It's not the easiest to get to because you'd have to fly to Pittsburgh and then drive, but it was cool, man. I really liked it. I like the vibes in the town. I love just like the rolling hills everywhere. I love the tailgate scene. I think it's a good atmosphere for football. I think West Virginia does it right. So I really like the West Virginia trip actually. That's just the one that stands out the most. You know, I mean, like Stillwater, Ames, um, Lubbock. Like these are all good places and very good college towns, but they are much more similar to each other. Manhattan, you want Manhattan in there. Lawrence, like they're much more similar to each other than what West Virginia is. So that's a part of it for me is that like West Virginia was so unique and different. By the time West Virginia came in the conference, I'd been to a lot of the places in the Big 12, and it was just kind of eye opening for me to be somewhere different like that. So I really like that one. I'm trying to think if there's like a second. I mean, like Fort Worth is obviously really cool. I like Fort Worth a lot, but it's the TCU experience. The stadium's nice, but it's not overly big. It's not an overly great atmosphere. It's just okay. So if you're into like a trip to Fort Worth, but that's also not really a college town to me. It just doesn't have the same charm as going to some of the other places. So yeah, I think that's what I would say. I mean, I love the football road trip to Lawrence, Kansas every year because K-State hasn't lost in Lawrence since 2008. So, it's a good 15 years that we've got there. So I typically do love the trip to Lawrence as well. But hey, David, what's up, David? David, appreciate you. Much respect for your work, Kurtz. Go Cyclones. Hey, shout out to you, David. I'll be interested to follow what's happening with the gambling issues at Iowa State because I feel like that's gone pretty silent all of a sudden. And we never got specific names as to what exactly was going on there. Man, we're talking City Slickers here. City Slicker, boy, I don't know about that. I don't know if that's totally fair. I mean, I do live in downtown Kansas City, but I was saying I like West Virginia. How big is Morgantown? Let me see the population of Morgantown. I just said that was my favorite trip here. Morgantown, West Virginia population. Oh, 29,000. Yeah, that's significantly smaller even than Manhattan. So yeah, and I like it. I like the charm. I like the charm of Morgantown. See if there was anything else that I missed in all my notes here. We've kind of like jumped all over the place, but covered most of it. We've got more from Dennis Dodd, I guess, if you want the rest of his article. We got to the Pac-12 being sued. We got to Feinbaum. Let's close on the Colorado note here since we kind of opened with that. And the fact that there is so much smoke surrounding the Buffs at this point in time. Here at Barry Trammell, this is a quote from an interview that he did, I believe, with 365 to expand upon his story the other day that said that Colorado was close to committing. He said, for the longest time, I was fairly optimistic that the Pac-12 would remain intact. I thought there were too many reasons for those schools to stick together and make a go of it. And I was optimistic nothing was going to happen to them. But 6 to 8 months have passed now, and the Pac-12 is not closer to a TV agreement, and we're at 13 months before the Pac-12 TV contract expires. With some of the things that I've heard from Big 12 sources, Colorado is number one on the list for schools to jump. I don't think anything is set yet, but I think something is going to happen more likely than not with the Pac-12, and it looks like Colorado is the first domino to fall. So Trammell has now jumped to the side of more likely than not that something will happen with the Pac-12. Dennis Dodd, Colorado has been in substantive talks with the Big 12 about possibly joining the growing league. A source with knowledge of the discussions tells CBS Sports. While the move out of the Pac-12 is not assured, Colorado is performing due diligence to determine whether to return to the conference at once called home. Colorado and the Big 12 have met face-to-face while involved in consistent talks over a period of several months. All right, well, that I guess flies in the face of what I was saying there. That's a face-to-face meeting that he is mentioning there. But I would think that would be the Big 12 going to them. It was made clear that a move to the Big 12 would not be made without the support of football coach Deion Sanders. CU's rumored Big 12 interest was the talk of the Fiesta Summit earlier this month in Scottsdale, with several sources speculating in the hallways. It became more public last week when the Oklahoman's Barry Trammell reported Colorado is ready to commit to joining the Big 12 soon. One little other, I guess this is kind of a nugget. I think most of us would have expected this, but It is expected that Colorado would receive an equal media rights share to join the Big 12, making the move even more attractive. The league's contract with ESPN and Fox is believed to guarantee an equal share for any expansion teams so long as they are currently Power 5 members. That's what Dennis Dodd had to say about Colorado adding to the smoke. All right, couple more, and we'll get out of here. Jay Rodriguez, what's up, my friend? Jay Rodriguez, thank you for being here and for your support of the channel. Jay Rodriguez says, hi, John. Karen told me to super chat. I think it's cool the Big 12 is going to Mexico, and I'm Latino, but not from Mexico. Go Cougs. Yeah, hey, Jay Rodriguez, I would encourage you to check out. Whenever that news came out, I don't know what the specific date was, but if you go catch the live show after that news came out, I was pretty optimistic about that. I like the idea. I certainly like the Big 12 taking chances and trying to get into an untapped market there. I don't see a lot of harm in doing that. So I'm with it. I just love that that's the line of thinking that Brett Yormark is operating with right now. So I share your optimism, your thought about that being a cool thing that the Big 12 is trying to do, Jay Rodriguez. So cheers to that, and go Cougs indeed. That is your COOGS, by the way, for those of you keeping track at home, not COUGS. And our web, FYI, Big 12 Karen was on 365 today. Yes, we talked about that at the beginning of the show. Our web, I'm very excited about that. I need to go check it out. I was going to try and listen before I hopped on here, but it was getting like too late, too close. I was recording a podcast right before I did this, and didn't have time. By the time I saw it, it was behind the paywall, and I'm going to have to just subscribe. Which I will happily do to go listen to that. But anyway, so I've got to make that happen. But I will definitely listen to it. I am very, very, very much looking forward to that. And it looks like we may finish things off with Daniel here. What's up, Daniel? Cat fan in Huskerland, a.k.a. Daniel Osborne. Came in late, just making plans to see the Royals on Sunday. The Batcats got screwed. Head-to-head should matter. Go Big 12. Yes, indeed. Go Big 12. Mexico. Yeah. Daniel, I'm with you. I got to meet Daniel at a K-State baseball game, K-State TCU game that I was referencing earlier, not that long ago. I do think K-State got screwed. It is what it is. You also, I fully understand the point that if you put yourself on the bubble, K-State had plenty of they lost some bad midweek games. They lost the series to Baylor, who was very bad this year. They did some things to screw themselves, but at the end of the day, yes, I think they were a much, much more worthy tournament team than Oklahoma. Even Kendall Rogers was out there on Twitter saying K-State is the better team. So it was a rough end, definitely a rough end of the year, but it was fun. And I do think the future is bright there. I think Pete Hughes can definitely recruit some dudes. And we've been able to see that with how he's made things work year over year. So yeah, tough one, Daniel, but I hope you have a great time at the Royals game. Hope you really, really enjoy that. Appreciate you being here as always. Matthew getting a buzzer beater in. What's up, Matthew? Still checking in from Columbia. Love that. Matthew says, buzzer beater, calling my shot. BYU will have 3 conference championships fall 2023 across all sports. Ooh, okay. I am not familiar enough at all with BYU's overall athletic program to know what the 3 most likely would be with all of that. I think football and basketball would be a pretty tough putt if we're going to start there, at least just in 2023. But I don't know what the rest of BYU's athletic department is like. I'd imagine that that's a school that's going to be pretty good at the rest of the sports. But I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. But hey, Matthew's calling a shot, people. Hold him to it. BYU will have 3 conference championships this fall, 2023, across all sports. Okay, guys, I'm about talked out. Did a podcast, did this. Pretty exhausted. Going to get out of here. But enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night. Please like the video. Please comment on the video. Tell me you love me. Tell me you hate me. Whatever it might be. All of it helps with the algorithm. I appreciate it. As always, all hail Lord Karen. As always, spread the word about the channel, social media, word of mouth. Buddies that love the team, love this conference, whatever it might be. Let's continue to grow this community here. Appreciate all of you guys who help me do that. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you'd like to contribute to the channel there as well. That's going to do it for me. Again, take care. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night, and I will talk to you all soon.